Hi, everyone. My name's Tamika Schilbe.
I'm Carolyn Burke.
And I'm Brenda Dowell.
And we are from David Tree School of Yoga. But today we're here actually to talk about food, and in particular, the medical medium, Anthony William, because his work has helped us so much. And if you're here with us today, perhaps it's helped you too. In particular, today we want to talk about, is this lifestyle, the medical medium lifestyle, isolating, and what do we do about it if it is? And we have some conclusions and thoughts about that, and we want to invite you into this conversation today. If you haven't already seen our first video, that gives more of a broad overview on his theories and his protocol, how he came to have this information. There's more detail there, so you can go back to that other blog and learn about that there. But for today, we want to share where we've been with some of his work and how it's healed some of our issues. Now, if you're dealing with anything, here's a quick overview of some of the things that his protocols can help you with. There are over 50 million Americans, and it's like one in every 5 people has an autoimmune disease or has been diagnosed with one. And he really debunks the autoimmune idea that our bodies do not attack themselves. So that's a big part. But also, if you've been diagnosed with anything like even mental health issues like anxiety, depression, OCD, and I think with mental health, there's a continuum. So we may not be diagnosed with depression, but we might go through bouts of anxiety or depression or needing to control everything or those kinds of things. So even brain issues are impacted by his theories, and they can help us with a lot of our things that are going on with our brains. Hormonal issues, cystic acne, other skin issues like eczema and psoriasis, chemical sensitivities, even sensitivities overall. If you're one of those people that's like, oh, I can't be around people, or I get super sensitive, shingles, thyroid issues, allergies, heavy periods, all the hormonal stuff that we have, that we can face. And there's a lot more than that. So I'm just scratching the surface with that, because anything that in your body that you haven't been able to heal, in many cases, Anthony William has a solution and has some ideas that will start you on that path to true healing for those issues, especially if you've been given like a mystery illness diagnosis, like, let's say, it's someone's name like Raynaud's disease or Hashimoto's disease, or it's like either the name of the doctor or the patient that was first diagnosed with it. There are other solutions. There are other ways to address this and to start to heal. So we are not affiliated with the medical medium in any way, shape, or form. We're just inspired by him. And it's hard for us not to share when we get inspired about things. Why should we stop ourselves from sharing if we're inspired? Also, just so that you know, we're not experts. We're not health experts. We're experts in our own bodies and our own laboratory of our own experience and experiments. So if you want more information, if this gets you curious, if you don't already know, then go back to medicalmedium.com and learn about that there, his theories there, and read his books. He's got a lot of books.
They're great.
They're great.
Yes, they're all great. There's lots of them. Okay. So I've been working with the protocols. I first read the book almost 2 years ago, and I've started slowly to work on the protocols. Like, I didn't do the full thing right away. I started with some supplements and then a few lifestyle changes, and then I've been working on it pretty seriously, I don't know, for the last year or so, pretty in a dedicated way. And you both have been working on the protocols for a year and a half. So we're all kind of in that same we feel like we can talk about it now, and we're just beginners in most ways that you would conceptualize this. We're just starting this journey, really, because one of the things that Anthony talks about is if you've had concerns with something for a long time, it takes a long time to heal it. There's no fast, quick solution to just make it all go away tomorrow. And that's one of the reasons I respect him so much. So one of the things that's kind of difficult to talk about is when we change our diets, when we change what we're eating, does it isolate us from other people? Does it create distance from other people? And this is what we really want to unpack today, and ask this question. And then what do you do about that? And do you just give it up because it's too isolating, or do you keep going? And that's the question that many people ask themselves when they're on a new program. And that leads us to this idea of the no foods on the program. And Brenda, you're going to talk about some of the no foods. These are the ones to avoid.
Absolutely. I just got back from vacation, and it's funny planting the seed last year with my family in PEI about all this medical medium stuff. So it was quite amazing that this year there was a lot more questions. And so it prompted me to revisit some of those foods that are, the no-eat zone, if you will. And so here's the list. Corn and soy and canola oil and processed beet sugar, eggs and dairy and pork and farmed fish and gluten and MSG, natural flavors, artificial sweeteners, and citric acid. And so what prompted me more than any other was dairy, because my niece, who was asking the question, she loves her milk. And so I started to look that up and send her the information. And dairy has a lot of fat in it, and it's really hard on our digestive system. And also the fat in dairy breeds viruses and bacteria. And it's also very mucus forming, which is big in, inflammation in the body can be caused by high levels of mucus. And so it was really interesting for me to go back and revisit this list to go, oh yeah, I forgot about that and why. So yeah, very interesting.
I had the same thing. After being on the protocols and delving into it for a while, I realized I was talking to my kids about canola oil and why they shouldn't be eating canola oil. And I thought, well, what is that all about? So I went back and I looked at the no foods. And for canola oil, it's kind of like having battery acid in your arteries in terms of the impact. It's quite a destructive oil. And it's pretty much all GMO oil, or comes from GMO products. And so the thing about canola oil is it's very inexpensive. So a lot of restaurants use it because it would be a lot to be using some of the other healthier oils. It would cost them a lot. So even if you're ordering like an organic meal, if canola oil is being used in it, it's pretty much destructive to eat it. So it was helpful for me to be reminded about that, because canola oil is in a lot of things. The other one was eggs, because eggs are so, Brenda said that's on the no list, and they're really promoted. A lot of people eat eggs. I was eating eggs pretty much my whole life. And it's almost promoted now as a health food item, which it is not. And so the concerns with eggs are similar. It feeds viruses in your body. And it also is, if you're struggling with any kind of illness, it's not going to help your body to heal. So it's just recommended to remove the eggs completely, if possible. It really also causes a lot of inflammation as well. And then the MSG is a big one, because we all know not to eat MSG. But the interesting thing, because it affects your brain, you actually lose thousands of brain cells when you're eating MSG. But now everything like natural flavors are actually, if you see something with natural flavors in them, it's often MSG. That is MSG. So that was a big eye opener for me, to be even looking in the health food store at like a juice box or something and would say natural flavors in it. And I was like, okay, well, we can't buy that. That's MSG. So interesting to have my eyes opened again and again and again when I'm doing this, to remind myself of what exactly those no foods are and why they're not helpful for us.
And I think, what is the natural flavor? Like what are they making natural flavors with is a really great question, because I believe that one of them is a beaver's anus area. Like residue from, that's a natural flavor. Like, why is that? Why are we eating that? That's, so I know it's crazy. It's concerning.
Yeah. And also artificial flavors are pretty much made in a chemical lab. So anything that has artificial flavors in it is not good for us to be eating.
Yeah. So as we go into all of these no foods, and it's like, don't do this and don't do that, we just want to say that everyone's body is totally different. And your body, you may not have pathogens, or you may not have like heavy metals in your brain or in your body, and you may not be dealing with the same level of viral and toxin load that someone else is. And so maybe you can eat anything and it doesn't affect you. But sometimes these things show up later in life, and they start with creeping in with something that we just get used to. Like, I had psoriasis and asthma since I was a child. Well, asthma since I was a child, and then it turned into psoriasis, or then I traded them kind of. But I kind of got used to that, and used to thinking, well, this is just the way it is. But then as my symptoms got worse, as I got older, I realized, no, there's like a systemic problem here. And actually all the things that I was trying to do weren't working. And then this started to solve them, and it started to make an impact. So I just want to say that each person's body is completely different. We are not here to tell people what to eat, but just to say in this theory, which we have found a lot of success with, and all of us have tried a lot of different things over a lot of years, as maybe you have too. And so that it's worked for us. But in this theory, it's really, these are the protocols. So that's why we're sharing them. Not to say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. You got to make your own decisions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, when you hear about all the no foods, you may be like, oh my God, like, this is like, I can't do this. There may be a million reasons why you can't do this. Maybe because of your kids, maybe because of your lifestyle. Like, maybe you travel all the time and you're not able to, make your own food, or maybe because of how busy you are, or maybe just because of comfort, because of what makes you happy. And, comfort is important, and what makes us happy is important. And so, I think a lot of us can shut this down as soon as we start to hear some of these things, because it seems like overwhelming, and it can take away what we feel is a pleasurable thing in life. Like, food for many of us is very pleasurable. And so for me anyways, my food pleasures have always leaned toward, like, I've been vegan and vegetarian since a very young age. But now I find that even after having that background in health, in eating healthy, if you will, that my pleasure, I'm getting even more pleasure now from the simplest of foods and the most natural of foods in their simple form. So not to take away that you have pleasures, and we don't want to take that away from you. And it may be that just by starting the journey and taking out one of the no foods, that you start to see enough success that you're like, oh my goodness, this makes a big difference in my health, my energy level, all of that. So it's something to consider. But I also want to say that for all of us, like, as we talk about the number of months we've been on this protocol, is that we've all gone off of it too. We've had times where we've crashed, where we haven't been diligent, where we've had life circumstances going on, where we haven't been eating the way we wanted to eat and following it the way we wanted to. And that is very normal. And I think that's not always talked about a whole lot in the community, maybe. It certainly is normal for us not to do this perfect, because if you're 40 years old or older, like if you're 40 years old, you've had 80,000 meals in your life. So you're used to eating a certain kind of way. And so it makes sense that you would go back to those patterns, because they're pretty ingrained, but watch the grains. Just kidding. Okay. How do we deal with the difficulties in the lifestyle stuff? Is it isolating? What do we do? What comes up for you, Brenda, for example? Like, you've been vacationing recently, and how do you interact with people, and how do you vacation and be on these protocols?
For me, it truly, I love what Anthony says too, is about we do the best we can. And so, yeah, being on vacation, it's tough to stay on the protocols if I don't have my juicer and I don't have my blender and all those kinds of things. Or if I go to a training, it's the same thing. And so it can be really challenging to stay connected with what I have chosen and how I've chosen to eat. And so it's up and down, and I do the best I can. And, but for the most part, I try to eat as close to the earth as possible. And, French fries come in and ice cream comes in because it's vacation, right? And like you said, we want to keep the pleasures there too, so that we're not isolating. And I don't want to isolate, and I want to share in the family things that are going on in the barbecues and stuff like that, where I may stick to the salads and stuff, but I still want to be a part of it. And for me too, the other thing is the insecurities around the changes that I've made, and feeling maybe judged, what are you eating, or how are you doing this? And it sticks with me a little bit sometimes, because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just eating over here, but and I don't want to judge other people the way they're eating either. I want to do the best I can for me and in the choices that I make, and let everybody else have their choices as well too. So yeah, vacations and training sometimes can be really challenging, and I love both of them. So it just gives me pause to be more compassionate and slow down and do the best I can with what's in front of me, and make the conscious choice. So.
And how do you cope?
That.
And how do you cope, Brenda? Like, how do you what do you do for trainings, for example, or do you just give it up? Like, do you just say, okay, I'm just going to eat whatever on the training weekends, or how does it work for you?
Well, when I get a chance, I'll slip out and try to find a grocery store and find fresh fruit and vegetables, and then hopefully find a fridge and be able to do that. And if I can't, then, I've mostly been able to at least find fruit and vegetables that you can keep out of the fridge in my room. And that's how I snack, and that's how I eat. And, protein bars, which aren't great, and for me personally. And sometimes that's what I need to be able to survive getting through a training or whatever it is. So I do the best I can. And sometimes for me, it sucks, and I can feel it in my body, and I still have to do what I can do. So
I love that. And for you, it's you've come to these protocols because of physical pain, right?
Absolutely. When you introduced me to this whole thing, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to fix my hip. Like, that's what it's going to do for me. So I can go on and do the cleanse. And then once my hip feels better, then I'll just go back to whatever I was doing before. And it was really interesting, because what I found was, oh my God, the aches and pains were, yes, going out of my body, but the energy I had was amazing. And so it's just become, it's become a lifestyle, a choice. And I love it. And it's not perfect, and I'm not perfect, and I do the best I can.
I love it.
I love
perfect.
It. And it's funny. I love the way you're saying it, because is it isolating or not? With it being a lifestyle, I think it takes time for other people's to come on board with the lifestyle. So for me, I found with my kids and with my family, there's just a lot of questions, like Brenda said, like, what's this? And why are you doing this? And aren't you hungry all the time? And that's not enough protein. And all these questions about, as you said, people are very interested in food and attached to how they see the way to nourish themselves. So at first I found that challenging, but over time, I feel like it just means preparing more. Like when I went up to the cottage to be with family, it meant I had all of my celery and my juicer, and I really had to refrigerate my own items separate from everyone else's. So it was a little bit like I am separate from that. Yet I could still eat some things that other people were eating as well. But it was a commitment that I had. I wanted to continue to do this. And what I found really interesting is everybody was wanting to know about the detox smoothie, and everybody was bringing their empty cups over, like, Auntie Carolyn, can I have more, please? Because it was delicious. And they're like, well, what exactly is in here? And how come it fills you up? And very, very interested as well.
Yeah.
So they started to get really interested. And I find that it's the same with my kids, that they sometimes are like, this doesn't seem normal. Like, it's not the way other people are eating, Mom. And I'll make something and I'll be like, this almost looks like a normal meal. And But what's happened is they can have some of their own items in there as well if they want to eat toast or whatever. But they've also opened up to all sorts of new recipes and that are vegetarian and vegan, and they're enjoying them as well. So it's been a slow shift, and I found that people get interested. Going to restaurants is interesting because I find there's not a lot on the menu that you can often eat. But recently, Tamika and I were at a restaurant where we just made a lot of modifications, and we said, well, could we have this, but without this and this on top? And would you do this? And they were so accommodating. It was delicious. So I think if you're willing to step out and say, like, is this possible? Often there are modifications that can be made, especially now. People are doing it more and more.
Yeah, it's really good. And what I hear you saying about family is that it takes people time to come around. Would you say that's true? Yeah. That, and like both of you
Yes.
said, there was more questions the second time around, or I don't know if both of you said it, but that's what I heard that, okay, 1 year you go back and then the next year it's like, so people think about it and then start to ask questions. But I also think this is interesting because whenever we make a change, and it doesn't matter if it's about food, guys, like a lifestyle change, or we're speaking our truth more, or whatever it is, we get tested. And and I don't mean people are trying to test us. They're just trying to figure out their own bodies. They're not trying to test us. But in a universal way, it's almost like it comes back at you like, oh, I have to justify myself, or I have to tell them why I am getting enough protein from the greens, or whatever I have to say back, and that actually I feel better than I've ever felt before. This always happens when we're doing something big. So this is advice for you, whether you're interested in food or not, is that we get tested, and it's the universe's way of strengthening the muscle to be able to move forward and go, yeah, this is what I'm doing. It's not like, I'm not married to it. Maybe I won't be doing this next year, but right now I'm so committed because of the way it makes me feel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's the biggest piece around the lifestyle. When you said, like, at first it was like, oh, I'm just going to try this and see what it's like. But as soon as I started it and started to feel the impact, I mean, I wasn't having anemia anymore. So, the medical medium talks about how mostly if you're anemic, it's because of low grade viral infection in your body. So as I'm eating all these, a green based diet, I don't need iron in the same way, and my body isn't reacting the same way. So the health benefits just kept getting stronger and made the lifestyle more sustainable.
And it's maybe a good time to just add that we're doing, all three of us, I guess now, Brenda, you're doing it now too, is the celery juice, straight celery juice, nothing else, on an empty stomach, 16 ounces in the mornings. I don't know if we're cutting out. I think the recording's a little shaky, but 16 ounces in the morning.
There you go. You're back.
On an empty stomach. And that has undiscovered mineral salts that, science doesn't know about. So they'll be discovered sometime in the future, according to Anthony William. And that those can heal so many different issues. Like some people just get on that for 7 days and they notice differences in all kinds of things. It depends obviously on your body and how long you've been suffering from something. So the celery juice, and then the heavy metal detox smoothie, which is that Anthony Williams really brought to the forefront that there's tons of metals that we have in our bodies, and they're impacting all kinds of our aspects of our health, including our mental health, because when there are metals in the brain, the neurons can't fire the way that they're meant to fire. And so things aren't functioning the way that they're meant to function. And when we can get those metals out, and we're also all exposed to metals and chemicals from our parents, from birth, even if you haven't touched something directly, we're exposed from birth. And then we also are exposed to other pathogens and chemicals just by living in this world. They're really inescapable. So the heavy metal detox smoothie is another unique part of this. So I didn't want people to just think, oh, we're just eating vegetables, because it's much more than that. It's a very specific way of eating. And then for me as a vegetarian / vegan over the last years, like on and off vegan, I would say I was eating a lot of beans and a lot of nuts. And so I was making up for that, but it was too much fat for my liver to process. And I am so super stoked that the liver rescue book is coming out in November. Yay! Like that will be incredible, because the metabolic functions of the liver are so vast, and we have no idea how important this organ is. I think we do know it's important, but maybe not to the extent, and how to keep it clean and rejuvenate the parts that are rejuvenatable. So it's so exciting. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Carolyn, how is it with the kids? Is it hard to
Sometimes it's funny when they're not with me. I think they're really good with it because they tell other people, oh, organic this, and but when they're with me, I think sometimes it can be like, could you please stop talking about the medical medium?
Oh gosh, we've got to get
that being said. Go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. Frozen.
No, that's good.
Are you back?
Yeah, they call the joke. Yeah, I'm back. You're back. Do you want to say it?
No, you go.
Okay, the joke is that we call him he. So the kids are like, he, what is he, God? Like what he has told you, or he's the one that says this. So we don't even say medical medium anymore. So it's like, well, he says you should try not to eat this. So it's fun because it's challenging. It is challenging. I try to get them to have a little bit of the detox smoothie every day, and some days that's hard because I don't love the taste. So I try different fruits in there to take the taste of the cilantro down a bit, or whatever it is. But overall, I would say there's just a lot more healthy eating that's happening as a result. So I'm happy about that. And maybe long term, they'll remember some of this. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I'm not sure.
So you guys, here's a question.
I mean, it's like if you have
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I forget what I was going to say.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Here's a question. What's your biggest challenge? Like, is it coffee? Is it or caffeine? Is it chocolate? Is it what is your biggest food challenge, and how do you cope with it on this protocol for either of you?
For me, it's coffee. Yes, I do like my coffee. And so, and I still do coffee, and I have cream in my coffee. So that's my dairy hit. And so, and when I do the cleanse, I do come off the caffeine, and then, I'll try to wean back a bit. But I tend to come back, and I'm on coffee right now and doing the best I can. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you feel better?
For me, it's baked good
coffee or on coffee? That's okay. There's a lag. It's okay. Do you feel better?
Would you want an honest answer?
Honest.
Yeah, actually, I feel, when I'm on my protocols and doing the detox smoothie and off of caffeine, my energy level is very different, and I'm always shocked at the exhaustion in my body when I stop taking caffeine. And I usually will only do one a day, but still even that. And so, I must say, to be honest, when I'm off coffee and cream, I'm much better. And I can feel the effects in my body, especially my hip, the inflammation piece with the mucus from the dairy, I'm sure, when I am drinking coffee, and I make that choice. So.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you guys are like, oh my gosh, I'm not giving up coffee, and you're freaking out, you don't have to give up anything. This is a journey. Like we just take whatever piece we can take. And, the concern with the coffee or any caffeine, like for me, it's dark chocolate. It's not coffee so much that I can be really easily addicted to, but it's it can create thick blood, which is something that medical practitioners don't really talk about. But Anthony William, you should learn about thick blood, because it just makes everything, all the health issues, more challenging. And water, thank you for the reminder, is the key. So if you are drinking a cup of coffee, then drink like tons and tons more water afterward if you really feel like you need that water. And I recently was doing a program with Maniza, the medical intuitive, and she's worked with Anthony William for years and years. And so she was fortunate enough when she was sick at the beginning to have access to him when he was still doing one-on-one. And she's one of his practitioners. And the cool thing is that, there's lots of things that you can learn. I highly recommend you checking out her work. She's just an amazing resource. But in that program, we just did the raw cleanse, the intuitive raw cleanse, and it was drink half your body weight in water each day. So that's a lot of water. Might help with the thick blood though, if you're drinking coffee especially. What about you, Carolyn? What's your biggest challenge?
I was saying for me, it's baked goods. So definitely chocolate comes in for me, but sugar. And, just like a really nice cupcake every once in a while. So I try to have vegan and gluten-free, but then every once in a while I will go off of that. Sweets, for me, sweets. So what was helpful when I reread about eggs with the no foods was like, oh yeah, this is like when it's not a vegan, and you can get some pretty good vegan desserts, but when it's not, but they still often have sugar. But when it's not a vegan dessert, you're also getting eggs in your system and perhaps canola oil or some of those others. So when I'm off, that's what I'm drawn towards. When I'm on, I want to eat way more fruit, and I get the sweetness from the fruit, and I don't crave it in the same way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good. Mine, I think, is chips, because I discovered these coconut oil chips that I really like. And so they only have 3 ingredients, which is potatoes, coconut oil, and salt. And so there's no canola in there. And so somehow I started justifying myself that I can eat these organic chips, but it's oil. It's still eating oil. But what I learned from Maniza on the cleanse, which was really interesting, is that because I do the heavy metal detox, and because I do have metals in my body, that then I get those out and I flush those out, but then I crave potatoes. And white potatoes, according to medical medium, are incredibly healthy. There's a glucose that the brain needs. There's all these health benefits to eating potatoes. And so that would be, I think right now, my number one challenge. And then if I just stay away from chocolate, I'm okay. I can't bring it in a little bit because it's addictive for me. I can't just have a little bit because I just want more and more and more. So, and you brought up fruit, Carolyn. Anybody that doesn't know already, that fruit is a key food in this plan. And I love that recently Medical Medium has revealed that actually the idea of not eating fruit was a plant, it was planted into society, basically because women especially were eating a lot of fruit. And so that's a really big health thing for women, and it feeds our brains and it gives us energy and all of these things. And so what he did was he revealed that actually the reason that we were told that it makes you fat, that fruit makes you fat, was because then they could sell us more supplements and that they could then take our health down. So it's really concerning that people wouldn't be eating fruit because the brain is made of sugar, good sugar, and it needs glucose. It needs that healthy sugars to be healthy. So I say this a lot, but I deprived myself of fruit for so long as a dieter, and my weight hasn't changed. I'm not skinnier or bigger than I was before, but now I'm eating lots of fruit and I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just something like this smoothie, I gotta show you.
I
got my props here. This is one of the thyroid smoothies that a recipe, I think, in the thyroid book. So it's just mango and banana and raspberries, water, and a little bit of ginger. And it's just such a great snack in the middle of the day.
Oh my gosh. I'm loving, you guys, in terms of an easy recipe. I am in love with, I forget which book it's from or where it's from, but his smoothie with 2 frozen bananas, 1 thawed banana, like regular.
Food's in my kitchen.
Oh, it's from her. Okay. It's from Savraj.
Mm-hmm.
Check her out on Instagram. She's amazing. So 2 frozen bananas, 3 dates, 1 non-frozen banana, chaga, which is a great coffee substitute, you guys, and a lot of healing benefits. And what else is in it, Carolyn? A little bit of water.
Cardamom.
And cardamom. It is so delicious. And if you only have frozen bananas, then you can put an orange instead of that extra thawed out regular banana, and it's so yummy too. It's really, and then you blend it, obviously blend it in the blender, it makes like, it's so filling and it's so fast and it's so delicious. Highly recommend. Okay. So some of you, I have a lot of women in my life that are cooking for a partner. And so that is where they get stopped with this isolation thing and like feeling like, and maybe even this doesn't have to be about men and women. I'm just telling you, that's in my age range. That's what I encounter, a lot of women that are dealing with that. But, you know, the thing is, that is a place where we can feel pretty isolated, because when you get your identity from the job that you do in the household, like whatever it is for men or women, if it doesn't have to be a man, it could, or a woman, it could be a man. But these women are like, oh, I can't do this because I'm cooking for my man. And so I just want to label that as like a very real obstacle. And you might be cooking for your women. I don't want to discriminate here, but you know, it's just something to integrate and know that you can bring people along slowly. You don't have to be like, okay, we're throwing out everything we used to eat. We're doing everything different. You can actually make small changes and try some of these meals that he has. He has so many recipes in his books, and start to exchange them for the typical meals that you make, and make them. And, you know, people often come around and there's certain things that they will just love. So it's not always about having to, you know, give up the rules and give up the social completely. But also, and then the other thing I would say, if someone really loves you, they want you to feel amazing. They want you. And if you explain it that way, this isn't about depriving them. It's like, I want to feel like my best to be part of this family. Like, I want to feel amazing. This is how I'm doing it. I think that's really important to share that with our people, so that they know that what your intention is if you're thinking about embarking on it or part of it.
Yeah, and just like you said, like adding one thing in at a time till you get used to it, or taking one thing out, and so that it becomes part of the lifestyle. And for me, that works phenomenally. Like just adding back now to the celery juice. Now it's becoming a daily thing, where for a long time it was in and out. But now my detox smoothie is consistent and every day. And so just adding in the next piece. So yeah, just as good as you can do.
Yeah, and it becomes routine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's good. It becomes good. So some of the things that we've really noticed is that we need to, as people that are so passionate about this, is let people be where they are. And it's hard. Like for me, actually, I've had people write to me 2 and 3 times asking me about help with the same medical or even mental health issue. And it's very hard. Like I've told them about the medical medium protocols, and then maybe I've told them again a second time, oh, did you remember? Well, this actually is what I've found helps people with this. And here's some resources. But if people don't want to be involved, they shouldn't be involved. Like it's not right for them. Like we have to feel a resonance with anything that we're taking on. And so, you know, I just say that to anybody out there that is a medical mediumite and a fan or a person that's really loving this, and just to know that let people be where they're at, and they'll come if they're meant to find it. They'll come in their own timing. But also know that we bring people in and we attract people that love these protocols. Like I love it when I'm buying celery, because this actually happened at the Salt Spring Market recently when I was with Carolyn, and I had this thing of celery like this because it's celery season here, and I'm so excited because I can eat like local, organic, like fresh, like super green celery and juice the leaves. And so I had this like bouquet of celery like this big. And people started asking, and we had a whole conversation with somebody that was just like, are you on the medical medium protocols? And that was so fun, because then we start to create community. And even my caterer said, I talked to someone about medical medium, and she said, this person said that he's got a lot of really new theories, and they're really interesting theories. And then someone else had said to me that they wanted to connect up, and because they live near me, and they want to talk and have this connection going on because they're doing it. And I think that's because it can feel isolating, because the rest of even the natural community, sometimes the natural health community, can have different ideas, and some of them are contradictory to what this new information is. So it can be really challenging that way, but we bring people along as they're meant to be, if they want to. Do you guys have anything to add to that piece before we wrap up?
I think just the staying true to myself and being consistent with what I choose and how I choose it, and then living it. And then the questions come because I don't force it. So the hand doesn't go up to go, yeah, okay, that's enough. It's just like, oh, okay, what are you doing with that? Or how's that working for you? And so, just letting them come back, and then fueling the fire a little bit, and then letting go. So yeah, they do come along if they're meant to.
I also find there's more points of connection once I've been doing it longer. I understand things more. So I can say, oh, actually, this is what I understand about this. And maybe somebody's more receptive to hearing it because it's something that's really happening in their lives at the moment.
Yeah, that's big. It's so amazing. It's so amazing that we have each other. Our conclusion, basically, when we talk about all this, is we ask ourselves, is the medical medium lifestyle, and it is a lifestyle, it's not a diet, because once you start doing this, you don't want to let it go. You don't want to let go of feeling good. Is it isolating? That's the question. And really what we've come up with is that being sick is way more isolating than the medical medium protocols, because we have the energy to be present, to be full of heart for people. We have the wherewithal, the thought, the ability to think straight, the ability to be with people in a much more energetic way, in a much more happy way than if we're not on them. So for us, I think that was the thought, is that it's way more isolating not to feel good. So to your health, we hope that you, however any of this lands, we love you, we support you. If you want to come and do a weekend with us, we actually have 5 days of medical medium protocols coming up here on Salt Spring Island. It's a beautiful time, early October, to come and join us, October 4th to 8th. Salt Spring Island, British Columbia, and we would love to have you. And what we'll do is we'll be meditating, we'll be practicing some very gentle yoga. We'll be having some meditation and connecting to the foods and their life purpose. Each food has a life purpose. And we'll be really figuring out ways that we can easily make this part of our life. And if you've never done the medical medium protocols, it's a perfect way to dive in and have someone else help you with your healing journey. All 3 of us will be there, and we'd love to have you. So to you and your health, I brought a prop. Oh my God, I wish you guys could hear me.
I just have my book.
The books are so
water.
Yummy. The water is good. The books are yummy. Books are so yummy, but
water.
Mm-hmm. You guys,
cheers.
Giant ginger. Okay, so we love you. I know, isn't that crazy? We love you so much, and we wish you a beautiful day. Namaste.
Namaste.